You wake up to the sound of boots crunching on gravel. It's 1944. You're 21 years old. An American soldier stationed somewhere in northern France. The air smells like smoke, rain, and fear. The war has already taken to many of your friends. And somehow, you're still here. Just a few years ago, you were back in Ohio, working at your father's small workshop. You spent your days fixing cars, laughing with your buddies, and dreaming about the future. Life was simple, predictable. Then came December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Remember that day like it's a scar that never fades? The radio announced the attack. Your father, a man of few words, looked at you and said, "Son, it's your duty now." And in that moment you knew. There was no turning back. The world you knew vanished. They shaved your head, gave you a uniform that felt stiff and foreign. They handed you a rifle that felt heavier than your own body. The drill sergeant screamed until your voice disappeared and his words were etched into your mind. You learned to march until your feet were numb, to shoot until the recoil was a part of you, to survive without sleep. Some nights, under a blanket of unfamiliar stars, you'd whisper your mother's name. You missed her cooking, the comforting smell of home, the sound of laughter around the dinner table. You made a promise to yourself, a silent vow whispered into the darkness. You'd make it back. Then came the ocean. A transport ship packed with hundreds of nervous young men, all pretending to be brave. You were all just kids, playing the part of soldiers. On deck, someone played a lonely tune on a harmonica. You stood by the rail, watching the endless waves crash against the hull, wondering if you'd ever see America again. Each wave seemed to pull you further from everything you loved. Days later, you landed on the beaches of Normandy. It wasn't like the newsreels. The air was thick with smoke and screams. The world shook with a constant, deafening thunder of artillery and fire. Your first battle was pure chaos. Explosions everywhere, tearing the earth apart. Bullets sliced through the air like invisible knives. You saw your best friend, Jack, fall beside you. He was gone before he even hit the ground. You wanted to scream, to rage, to stop everything, but there was no time. You kept moving, you kept shooting, because stopping meant dying. That night, huddled in a muddy foxhole, you wrote a letter home. "Dear Mom, I'm fine." You lied. You had to. How could you tell her about Jack? Or about how the sound of gunfire still echoed in your head long after the silence returned? You couldn't share that burden with her. Weeks bled into months. You marched through burned-out villages and past roads filled with the skeletal remains of tanks, met civilians, their faces etched with fear and hunger, but also with gratitude. An old French woman once pushed a piece of bread into your hands, her own hands shaking uncontrollably. She smiled through her tears and whispered, "Mercy." That one small word, that simple act of kindness, reminded you why you were here. This wasn't about medals or glory. It was about freedom. It was about humanity. Then the snow began to fall. Coldest winter of your life. The Battle of the Bulge. You lost all feeling in your fingers. Your boots were frozen solid to your feet. You hadn't truly slept in days, just stolen moments of consciousness in the biting cold. But you kept fighting. You dragged wounded men through the snow, their weight a testament to the promises you made to each other. You watched others freeze before the sunrise could offer any warmth. In the quiet, desperate moments, you prayed silently, "Please just let this end." And then one morning it did. May 1945. Germany had surrendered. The war in Europe was over. You stood in the ruins of a town that no longer had a name, your rifle hanging loosely in your hands. The immense weight of everything settled upon you, the overwhelming relief, the profound sorrow, the crushing loss. You had survived. When you finally returned home, the world looked different. Crowds cheered. Flags waved from every window. Everyone called you a hero, but inside, you didn't feel like one. A hero wouldn't have these ghosts. You had seen too much, lost too much. And every night, you still heard the echoes, the bombs, the screams, and the deafening silence that always followed. Years passed. You built a life, a family, a future. Sometimes you'd sit on your porch, watching your grandchildren play in the yard, their laughter filling the air. They'd climb onto your lap and ask, "Grandpa, what was it like in the war?" You'd smile softly, pulling them close, and say, "It was a long time ago," because how could you explain it? The gut-wrenching fear, the impossible courage, the unbreakable brotherhood forged in fire, the sound of a friend's last breath. How could you put words to the memory of carrying the weight of the free world on your 21-year-old shoulders? But deep down, you knew something with absolute certainty. You and your brothers, the boys who became men in the fields of France, you changed the world. You fought for freedom. You fought for peace. You fought for every child who would ever grow up under a free sky without knowing the smell of smoke and fear. You close your eyes. You remember the vast, cold ocean. Jack's easy laugh. The first sunrise over the French countryside. And for a fleeting moment, you feel at peace. Because though the war ended long ago, its story, its sacrifice, its meaning, lives on in you. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that honors our history. We'll see you next time.